Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Renew podcast. I'm your host, Mia Andree, and in the hot seat today, we have my mother, Kristen Andree, who some of you may know if you've listened to the podcast ever before. Now, today, Kristen, we have an interesting topic because you and a man named Matt Steele talked about this topic.
Yes.
Parenting. You are both parents, is that correct?
That is correct.
Now,
yes.
I wanted to do some parenting stuff as well because you parent me, as you know.
And I'm aware of that, yes.
I wanted to bring my perspective.
Got it.
Into this conversation.
This is fair. Do you think that, are you saying Mr. Steele and I did not do a good job with the parenting episode, or you just want to provide the kid perspective?
I want to provide the kid perspective. I'm going to be honest with you. I watched some of it. You guys seem like you guys did fine.
We did fine. Thank you.
Given you guys are both parents.
Yes.
You guys were kids.
We were kids, yes, both of us.
But times have changed, and I'm here to give my perspective.
Wonderful. Okay, well, I appreciate you being in hosting duties this morning.
No problem.
Part of it is because you want to be in charge of this. Part of it is because your mother is highly medicated right now because Georgia is covered in a blanket of pollen, and I can't even think straight at this point. So this should be fun.
Yes, it should be great.
Now, I would like the audience and everybody listening to help in because since I am hopped up on Benadryl right now, I do want to make sure that I don't agree to anything that I shouldn't be agreeing to. So if you guys are listening and are parents and I start agreeing to things that I shouldn't, you guys just comment, let us know.
Or you guys could stay out of the comments for that portion of the podcast.
So Mitch later just said, must-see TV.
Must-see TV. So
Nice.
Mitch is a parent as well. Mitch is also a Mia fan. So I feel like he may take your side on this. So all right, tell me what, when it comes to parenting and the little bit you've heard and what you've seen, what are we getting right?
What are you getting right?
Yeah, as parents, for the most part, your parents, your friends' parents, what are we doing that's good? Let's build us up a little bit first.
Well, we thank you for shuttling us around everywhere. And you guys are doing pretty good at, buying things for us and making food and things. But there is a downfall there because you guys tend to be a little hands-on. And because maybe that's how you were raised, we're like...
Well, it's all right. Now, I don't know because I know they say hands-on parenting. I'm a Gen X, so Gen X was the first latchkey generation where the hands were off a lot. Like we'd come home from school and nobody was there. Well, not in my house, but in most houses, not in my house. In most houses, we'd come home from school, you kind of let yourself in, you did your own thing, you made a snack, you rode your bike to your friend's house, and you just played outdoors. But that's different now.
I still do that.
You
Kennedy still does that.
That's true. But all right, so why are we hands-on? Describe hands-on as from the views of a kid.
You care about everything we're doing.
Oh, that's terrible of a parent to care about what their child is doing.
Not care about, but you need to know about everything we're doing.
Yeah, we do.
That's like low-key annoying.
So, all right. Low-key annoying for those of you guys without teenagers basically just means annoying.
Annoying, but
you could also be
degree.
high-key annoying.
Yeah, high-key annoying is in your face annoying. Low-key annoying is just like, eh.
Okay. So, us low-key annoying parents, I have a tendency to be high-key annoying too.
Yes. That is correct.
All right. So give us some specific examples. So for the parents listening, and you've got to think we're talking teenager, middle school, high school, college. That's what I parent. And
yes.
But younger kids, let's start with the younger kids first. So if you've got somebody in elementary school, what advice do you have for the parents? Think back to when you were in short pants in elementary school. What should parents be doing then?
Well, I was a pretty chill elementary school student. Parents, at that point, you need to be kind of hands-on so they can build up skills that they could use later in life. But, right, like, when they start getting to middle school and stuff, everyone needs to chill and, like, step back a second. Even if they're in 6th grade, parents could chill a little bit.
That, for those of you guys listening, that was a directed at me. The rest of you guys can ignore that. So let's talk about this. Because, all right, so we had Skeff just comment that said caring about everything, that's called parenting. Yes, Skeff, thank you. That is called parenting.
Not
So-
great parenting. It's just
Well,
parenting.
all right. So, but let's talk about this, because I think, when we discuss this on the show, and you and I've had this conversation off air, I think as parents, we worry about everybody, like all the things. We worry about people getting kidnapped. We worry about, I don't know, if it's a thing to worry about, we worry about it. But that's our job as parents. And I know you're not a parent,
No.
and I don't know that it's a goal of yours. However, she decided the other day she might be a really good aunt, but
That'd be a great aunt.
she'll be the fun aunt for sure. So as you're thinking through, and like, let's stay on elementary school for a while. So what do we need to teach kids in elementary school? What is it you feel like that you learned in elementary school, whether it's through us or through school, that like, you're like, okay, this is stuff kids that age need to know?
I don't know, basic common knowledge like getting dressed and making food and things like that you could do on your own once you get older.
Okay.
Nothing too like scientific. You don't need anything too intense.
Well, and that's where I think things are getting a little wackadoodle in the world today. It's like a lot of elementary kids are like overscheduled. They're doing sports and language lessons and music lessons and all that stuff. So how do we allow kids, and transitioning from elementary to kind of middle and high school, how do we allow kids to figure out what it is they like? Because I do feel like a lot of times we push kids into something that we want them to do, not necessarily that they want to do.
Yeah. In elementary school, I think all the sports and stuff, like a lot is way too much for an elementary school kid. But once you get to middle school and stuff, they can start trying out things. Like a bunch of middle schools, their high school counterpart has a bunch of junior
Like cheer and
sports things.
football and stuff like that.
Yes, they can just try out whatever they want instead of forcing it upon them in early middle school and elementary school and stuff.
How do you think kids figure out what it is they like? Like what would you, because you've got a few hobbies, and I think they're your hobbies for sure. Like they're not anything your sisters do or anything like that. How did you know this is my thing?
What's the word for when you're like trying something and it doesn't work, but then you try something and it works?
Failure?
Failure?
No, not failure. Like it happens. Like something in error, trying an error.
Oh,
Something in error. That.
Okay. Trial and error.
Trial and error.
Yes.
That's what it
Thank
is.
you.
That.
Okay.
Because you try different things, and then whatever works for you, and if you enjoy it, you enjoy it.
And then you stick with that and you dump
Yeah.
the rest.
You don't have to dump the rest. They can just be other hobbies, but
Okay.
you can focus more on that.
So what would you say to, and this is interesting as a parent, because I think a lot of time kids do stuff because their friends are doing it. We'll get into peer pressure in a minute, but what do you say to the kids that like their hobby is just different, that they're different from the other kids? Because that's where I think parents try to steer kids back to the norm a lot. I know I've done that for sure.
Keep doing what you're doing, because once you grow up, all those people are going to be having a harder time because they don't really know what they like to do, and then you'll already have that figured out, so you'll do better in the long run. So just stick it out.
Okay. So what do you like doing? I think those that have heard you on the show probably know, and how did you come to your hobbies?
Okay, so I like to sail, which I've been doing since I was like 3.
Okay.
So I grew up doing that, and it's fun and chill, and is a good way to decompress. I like space, which I've been doing since I've been learning about since I was very, very little. I like to read books and watch movies and things that lead me there, which also falls into the film and television world, because I like to make stupid home videos and read books a lot that has to do with that. And then karate, I just started doing that young and I liked it, and so I kept pursuing it even though it kind of sucked having to practice all that.
All right, so let me ask you a question on the karate, because you for those of you guys listening, Mia competes in karate. We've got world championships coming up in July. She's 3rd degree black belt.
Nice.
Does pretty tough girl. And she's done well. You've done really well. She's like ranked top 10 in the world in a lot of her stuff. So she's done really well. However, and I don't know if you remember this, when you started karate, the first few classes you didn't like it.
No, I didn't. You forced me to do it.
I did force her to do it. So that's what's because I bought a package of 5 classes. You know, it was what we saw a thing at school.
5 classes in a uniform.
5 classes in a uniform, and it was only $25. So it was not the money to me because it was $25 for all that. But you saw people do it at school. What happened is they had a booth set up at one of the fairs at her elementary school. And she saw a friend, wasn't a friend at the time. You saw him break a board.
No, I saw that they were giving out lollipops for whoever broke the board.
Oh.
So I was like, I want a lollipop.
I
Let's
thought
go
it was
break
because
the
you
board.
thought breaking the board was cool.
No, I was beyond the board. I was like, fine, I guess I'll break a board to go get the lollipop because it's one of those nice ones, like a good lollipop. And I was like, I guess I really
the good
need
like
a
blow
lollipop.
pop kind of lollipop.
Yeah. Okay. And I was like, I guess I need a lollipop, so I guess I'll go break a board.
So that, parents, is how you find a hobby that will last a lifetime. Is through lollipops.
Exactly.
But all right, so what happened is I bought the package. They lured us in with a lollipop. She saw the board. I'm like, that's kind of cool. The kid jumped over another kid and broke a board. It was fun. Who you're now good friends with him too. But
who are you talking about?
Tristan. It was Tristan that was.
I
doing
don't
it.
remember any of that.
Oh, how do you not? You just remember.
I was
the lollipop.
focused on the lollipop. Tristan might have flown through the entire air and kicked a board.
Tristan jumped over his sister and flew into, did a flying sidekick into the board and broke it. That's what I remember. She remembers the lollipop. So how we get to the hobbies apparently is irrelevant. But what was interesting is I bought the 5 classes. We signed you up. We went to class. You hated it the first 2 classes. Hated it. Didn't want to go back. And I said you have to at least do 5 because that's what the package we bought. And by the 5th one, she's like, this is so awesome. I want to keep going. So what's the over-under? How do parents know when you've tried it enough to stick with it and you've tried it enough to say, yeah, this isn't my thing?
Well, give it a little time. Like I gave up on it like the first class, and then you gave it a little bit of time for me to see if I liked it again. But so it's not like a prolonged experience. It's like whatever amount of allotted time is best in that situation, because it's very different for everything you do.
Yep.
But if you go for a little bit and it's still not, your feeling about it is not changing at all, then it's not.
And that was 9 years ago. You were 7. We should post a picture because I've got some cute white belt pictures and videos that are fantastic. So I think so that we got to give them time to fail or succeed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically.
What would you say to the parents who, you've given it some time, you've been at it a while, and the kid is like, I don't love this? Because I've had this happen. One of my girlfriends whose daughter was a competitive gymnast, very high level, already at level 7, level 8 on the USA track 4 at a really young age. Her daughter, one time, at that level, you're training 25, 30 hours a week in the gym. It's a lot. And I feel like she might have been 9 or 10 at the time. And she just told her mom, she goes, I'm not having fun anymore. So she quit. And the mom let her. But I know a lot of parents who say, no, you have to stick with it. So when should a parent, what does a kid need to do if it's just not their thing and they know that? And they've given it ample time.
You just tell someone, because it's kind of their choice, depending on the parent. Because the parent may keep pushing them into it, but it should be the kid's choice whether or not they feel like they're up to doing it more and more. Okay. Because it is a lot of time you're putting into it, depending on what it is. And if you're not liking it, that's just time wasted. So there's no point of staying there.
What do you think about sports for kids? Organized sports. Because I know a lot of people listening are into sports, and a lot of people aren't. Because I think we push as parents so much sports and not as much arts and entertainment and stuff.
That's why I'm not a big sports person other than karate. And karate's not even a legitimate.
Oh gosh.
It's a legitimate
We're sorry,
sport.
Sirs
no,
and
it's not a legit. It is a legitimate sport,
You're
but it's
about to
not
get hate mail.
any pro NFL.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
thing.
There's not there are associations, but yes, it's not as mainstream.
Yes. So all the mainstream
Although
sports.
MMA and WWE would be awesome. No? Okay. Proceed.
Not for me.
Okay, proceed.
But they could be. They are fun to watch.
They are fun to watch. Yes.
But organized sports, a lot of kids jump into the main ones, and they may be really good at the main ones. I know a bunch of people who are really good at those sports, but sometimes it's just because everybody else is doing it, and you don't really get to indulge in things that you really enjoy. Could you imagine me playing soccer like I did when I was younger? Now?
No.
Exactly. I can't play basketball.
Well, because both of those involve running.
Yeah. And I'm horrible at running. But if I wanted to fit in, then I would play basketball and just suck it up and take a bunch of meds before I'd go.
So our whole family's medicated here. So all right. So if we take sports out of it, what other? All right. So here's an interesting question, and I'm curious because when I feel like when I was in school, now my high school, I don't know, and a lot of you guys that went to high school with me listen to the show, so let me know. I felt like our high school, all the crowds kind of got along. Like we had band. We didn't really have a big theater department that I remember. But we had like the band and like the cheerleaders and the sports people. And I feel like everybody kind of intermingled. Is it that way now, or is there really just like a lot of cliques when you get to middle school and high school?
Oh, from my perspective, I don't think anybody really gets along. Like maybe the cheerleaders and like the football players and all of them, like the sports people. But then when you get to like the band people and like theater people, they all kind of stay in their own crowds and they don't really like talk to anybody, but there's like a few crossover within them, but most of it, there's a lot of cliques and things and groups.
So when I mean, cliques have always been around and they have the different, but
Yes.
It's, you know, we were talking about the TV show the other day, which I didn't watch, Freaks and Geeks.
Oh, Freaks and Geeks.
Mia likes Freaks and Geeks. And when did that come out?
1998
Okay.
to 2000. It was one season. Judd Apatow. Love
He
him.
was, there were a bunch of big people in
Well,
there.
it was Judd Apatow directed it and wrote it and created it. And I think he directed it. But it was like the first few career moves of like Seth Rogen and James Franco.
Okay.
And all of those big guys, Jason Segel, like all of those guys. It was
Yep.
like their first really big thing.
But the whole premise of it was the freaks and the geeks. There's
Yes.
like different cliques and different. But I feel like it's not that it's okay, because I'm really big on finding your people, and I think everybody's got a different group of people that they hang out with. But as long as you're nice to the other groups and you're not doing anything to damage or hurt the other groups intentionally, that's okay. I feel like in school, are people mean or not? And actually, before you answer that question, your grandmother would like you to explain the meds comment because she's watching online.
My meds comment, be like inhalers and things.
Yeah. Okay. So that Nanny. Okay. So Mia has lung issues and has an inhaler when she has to do competitive athletics, and I
Yes.
have allergies, so I took my Benadryl.
Yes.
Is that okay, Mom? Nanny, just checking in.
And then Mitch later said, it's more of a mind sport and in the long run will help you much more than organized sports, which parents are way too obsessed about and cause kids so many injuries, especially with young girls into soccer.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
That's big
and
time.
it, not just injuries and it's time, it's money, it's all that. But let's talk about the cliques and how people. High school. You're in high school.
I am in high school.
You are not currently in
Sadly.
high school. I did get this this is an excused absence for her, since this is kind of career building with wanting to go in film and TV. So she is here legally. But with that, how are people mean in high school? We talked about the Mean Girls before on this parenting episode. Matt and I did. So we talked about Mean Girls. Are you seeing people being cruel and mean, or do people just kind of keep to themselves within their respective cliques?
Well, they keep to themselves within their respective cliques, but to people's faces, they're not as mean. I don't really know. I don't experience a lot of that, but there's a lot of behind the back talking that I've noticed. I mean, everybody's guilty of it, but still, like, there's a lot of that. Not really to their face, but like to their own people. They're like talking about people.
And I think that's, one, I think you should not say things to their, I always say if you wouldn't say it to their face, you probably shouldn't be saying it. Which means it's probably mean. But I think there's, and there's different categories, different, all these people. And I know Skeff had just mentioned a few things before, that not everybody's into sports. I totally agree that, because Mia's not really, other than karate, she's not really a sports person. You've never played team.
I don't know anything about football or basketball. I know a little bit about baseball, and I know about hockey, and that's the only things I know about.
Yeah, but and she knows more about the teams and everything, because I agree, a lot of kids aren't into sports, and even if you are, not everybody's going to make the team. Not everybody's got these athletic abilities that a lot of people do. So you've got to allow for what your kids want to do, whether it's music or theater or game. A lot of kids are into games right now. We have a lot of gamers. We were talking about that the other day with some other friends of ours too. I just don't know anything about that. So it's interesting as a parent, like if a kid takes up a hobby that you know nothing about, how can the parents support them? So let's say you all of a sudden were into sailing and took that up, or I don't know a lot about stuff. So how can parents be supportive and involved and support the hobbies if it's something they don't know anything about?
That's going back to just chilling out and letting them do what they want to do, because they can, given you don't know much about a certain subject, they could indulge themselves and read stuff or go do stuff by themselves and let them figure out what like idea or what realm they like about it, and then you can kind of step back and wait for them to come back and share their experiences.
Okay, so let them explore.
Yes.
Okay, so I think that's good with hobbies, but the let them explore goes to a lot of different things too, because you've told me that before. I receive I don't know if you guys listening get feedback from your kids.
You ask for my feedback.
I do ask for her feedback. A lot of times from some of my kids, it's unsolicited feedback, but
big time.
Yeah, I get unsolicited feedback as a parent. If any of you parents are listening and get unsolicited feedback, could you just like raise your hand or something? Because I'm hoping it's not just me. I do receive parenting feedback, but a lot of times I will ask. I'll ask Mia or I'll ask Bailey, you know, what do you think about what I'm doing with Kennedy? Or I'll get input from the other people. So how do we loosen the reins? Because the feedback I get, I don't know if you guys are the same, but the feedback I get is chill. I'm being a little extra in the parenting. I want to know too much.
Yes. Now this, depending on your kid, and Kennedy, there's to a certain point you kind of need this, but you're kind of crossing the boundary somewhat, like whether you should step in and do stuff or let her figure it out.
Right.
And I think it's more, you should let your kid figure it out more than you stepping in.
So when do we need, as parents, when do we step in? Because I'm fine with letting you guys fail. Like I really am.
Cool. Thanks.
But no, I mean like a learning. I'm fine with providing you learning opportunities.
Wow.
Because what is my favorite quote when it comes to parenting?
Is it a lack of planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on mine?
Thank you.
That
She
quote,
hates this
because
quote.
I'll need like a glue stick from the store to finish a poster
That's due tomorrow.
because my glue stick ran out, and you're like, a lack of planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on mine, and I literally want to
say it
cry.
in that voice. So
Jeez.
I do say it in that voice, but it's true. And Mitch has said you only learn from failure. I agree with that. So I do try not to step in, and I let you guys screw up. I mean, I do. I let y'all fail. I'm not going to let you get injured or, kidnapped by a band of gypsies, but I let you guys fail, don't you think?
You let us fail somewhat, but before we fail, you're like, are you sure that's what you want to do? You don't let it just happen.
So all right. So for those of you guys listening, I need to do that. So it's, I don't know. Oh, Adunu just said, she told one of her daughters, there are things, there are things that we just don't want to tell our mom about.
Yeah. Are you kidding me? Yeah.
So what? All right, but that's part of like we want to give you opportunities to learn, and I don't want you to fail. So I will say, I do. I'm guilty of that. Is that really what you're going to do?
Is that what you're like gonna do? Like Kennedy, when we put on something that she doesn't like agree with, like our clothing, we'll walk down the stairs and she'll go, "So, is that what we picked for today?" Like, is that
this isn't me saying that?
No, this is Kennedy.
Kennedy says,
which is the exact same thing.
Parent.
You do that too sometimes. I'll walk down the stairs and be like, "Oh, so is that the ensemble we're going with?"
Yes.
And I'll be like, "Yes, it is," and you'll be like, "Oh, okay."
I let you fail with your fashion choices all day. It's okay.
What?
But all right, so as parents, I agree with that. And it's hard. It's so hard as a parent.
Yes, it definitely is.
Because we don't want to see you guys fail. We don't. And so many times we know like, oh, I've done, and it's usually because we've made the same dumb mistakes ourselves. And we're trying to prevent our kids from
And you figured it out because you did it. But the kids, if you would stop them, then they don't figure it out and it could happen again.
I agree with that. And Adunu just said the key is to let kids know and understand that we're there when they need us.
Yes. You have to make that, you have to have that idea running with your family, and to the point where it's an unsaid like idea. Like people know that's true, but you don't have to keep pressing it on people.
Okay.
Yeah.
So but if it's not the parent, because there are going to be some things that you don't go to me about. I know there are tons of them.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
But who do kids go to? Like, who do we, because our joke in our house was you need to have a trusted adult. And we heard this from a seminar that, my friend
That you
Jessica
forced
and
me to go to.
We forced her to go to. But it was about, all the challenges of being a teenager, because the truth is, and you say this to me all the time, it's different now than it was when we were growing up.
Yeah.
We didn't have the pressures of social media. We didn't have I'm sure we had crazy people back then, but it's just different now. And even school is way harder. You tell me this all the time.
Yes.
You're like, school's harder than it was when you went. And it is. I admit
Yes.
that. I full force admit that. But if you can't go to a parent, and we need to understand that, who should kids be going to? Because what I worry about is not for you, but for some kids out there. And not at my kids. It's just, it depends on the group of friends. Like, I get asked a lot, because you're you're a pretty decent kid, right?
Preach.
You
Yeah,
do
thanks.
all right, no props. But but I think that's a direct result of the people you surround yourself with. And not everybody has a peer group that's leading them in the right direction. So who should kids seek to have in their life for advice on those times that they don't want to ask their parents?
Well, kids, they just talk to their friends about stuff. If they don't,
But that's what I mean.
Up.
If you have crappy friends, they're going to give you crappy advice.
Yeah, they are, and then you're gonna have to learn from those mistakes from that crappy advice. So it there is some sort of self control when it comes to your friend group, because that is how most kids based everything off of. So that's the first step, and then once you have decent friends, that's who you tend to go to if you don't want to talk to your parents.
Okay, so are adults harder to talk to? What would make
Yes,
an adult,
adults are way harder.
what
to
would
talk
it
to.
make it? What would make it easier for kids to or want to approach us, either as a parent or an adult friend, or what?
You guys being chill. That's the whole thing when it comes to parenting. It's just chilling out. Because if you guys are chill, then the kids are oh, they're pretty cool. I guess I could talk to them.
So let's go ahead and talk about you've said this before. I feel like I'm pretty cool and a pretty decent parent and chill.
You are a decent parent.
And you feel, thank you, decent. I got a decent.
You
yes.
said decent, so I repeated what you
Okay.
said.
So, but here's what's interesting. You've made this comment before. Kids never think their parents are cool or whatever.
No, they don't.
So they're way more likely to go. Your friends think I'm cool. I got a text from one of your friends the other day just checking.
No, they were all my friends are oh yeah, your mom's so cool and chill. And I'm what are you talking about? She's chill to a certain point, but you guys are up here. She's at least right here, and you guys are
So do you think that has to do with the perception of you being my child? Because I feel
Yes.
if
No, my
all of your
perspective of you
friends
is so
and the
different.
population as a large thinks I'm cool and chill, that must be true.
yeah, because I have to live with you all the time.
That is true.
And they don't have to spend that amount of time with you. I'm not saying with you. I'm saying you as an example to all the parents. This
Yes.
is not only you. So I have to spend an amount of time with my parent, and they don't have to. So they see more of that parent. And so I think my friends' parents are the coolest, and they're always no.
So it is. I mean, and I think at the same time, we thought the same thing growing up
Yes.
with, whether or not we thought our parents were cool or not cool.
That's kids. They always want to go to they're hanging out with someone. They always want to go to their house.
Yep.
They don't want them to come here.
They want to go. Yeah, they want to
Yeah.
go to the cool house.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So there is a line between being a parent and being a friend, because this came up on our parenting show as well. I don't know if you heard this part, since you only listened to part of it, but there are a lot of parents that allow craziness going on at the house, that are having the parties, that know the kids are drinking and smoking pot and all this stuff. Where's the line between being a parent and being a friend from a kid perspective?
You know the Gilmore Girls?
I do know
They're a
Gilmore
friend
Girls.
and a mom. Their mother and daughter are but best friends. So
why? What makes it that way?
Because she's chill about most things, and then she'll step in for the things that really matter, and then she'll back up for the rest.
So okay, great.
So when
point.
it comes to partying and stuff, depending on who your kid is, because my parties are probably just gonna be, they would be chill. There's not drinking and smoking and drugs or whatever. But because depending on how your kid is, you would need to step in and be no, that's the line. You just crossed the line. We're not doing that. And then you'll step back and
Okay.
chill.
Okay.
Depending on your family and their friends as a whole. You step in for some things and step out.
All right. I think that's fair. But it is, a lot of times parents need to step in, and parents need to be the heavy sometimes too. Because a lot of times, I know I had this growing up where I didn't want to seem like narky or not cool, like if my kids were doing something wrong, and then I could go to my mom or dad and say, hey, step in and tell me I can't go to this party or something.
Ew.
I definitely had that I remember that happen at prom. Everybody was going to an after party and I didn't want to go. And so I told my mom, I was like, I don't want to go. She's like, okay, I'll make it my fault.
You did not do
I
that.
did. I was the nerdy kid. I kind of was.
So
Mom
Mitch
told me
later
not
asked
to
a really good question. Are guidance counselors helpful or way too worried about all the rules they have to follow?
I think it depends on the guidance counselor, because my stepmom is a counselor and is in that realm, and she's pretty cool. I think she's pretty cool. But then
and she's strict too, though.
She is strict, and she knows when to not be. She knows when to step in. But the guidance counselors at my school, some of them are chill. Some of them are very set on making sure everybody follows the rules and not necessarily what is good for the student. They're all good overall. I'm not bashing the guidance counselors at my school because they're pretty chill. But some guidance counselors are very set on making sure every student follows every single rule, which makes sense because it's your job. But there is to a certain point where the guidance counselors don't step back when they could.
Well, and I think it's important to, you made a point earlier, is step back on the things that aren't as important.
Yes.
But the big ones like drugs or drinking, which to me is kind of I'm a hard no on those for underage kids. And I know some parents are. And you know what? It's kind of to each his own. But for my kids, that's my rule. But guidance counselors, I don't know. We've had cool ones.
And we've had not great ones.
But we've also had them overstep. Some of the things that you've gotten in trouble at school. She wore her weekend jeans to school one day.
I did wear your weekend jeans.
She wore, and they had a rip in them. You know how, because it's cool to have ripped jeans, and it was above the knee. And she got dress coded for having on weekend jeans. Because she was told those were not appropriate for school. They were for the weekend. The funny part about that is they were my jeans. So she told me, she goes, I got dress coded for your clothes.
Because you don't like wearing many rips. So those were out of commission.
Well, I wear
so
yours.
I took them.
Yes. So your pants that have rips, I wear those. But all right. So, a lot of people are kind of saying it's about watching what you guys are. So Matt, Sprayberry, who I went to school with, we grew up together, and then Rob's commenting. It's kind of all the same thing. It's you want to watch them and help them, but keep them from the big stuff. Stop the drinking and the smoking, and be able to kind of live and learn. Allow you guys to live and learn. It's so hard.
Oh yeah, it's not gonna be easy. Yeah, but it's something that kind of needs to happen. I think that's
something people need to know if they're getting into parenting. This is not an easy ride.
Oh, for sure. It's not going to be fun.
So
it's going to be fun sometimes.
What are kids, and let's stick with high school age, because that's where you are. What are kids dealing with right now? What's the biggest stressors in a kid's life?
Peer pressure and school overall.
Okay.
Because the people I hang out with are very, they are all involved in a bunch of stuff for college, extracurriculars and things for your resume and applications.
So let's talk about school for a minute, because college, when I went to high school, we applied for colleges and we basically got in. I mean, that's what you did. You filled in an application, you mailed in $20, whatever it was, and you got in. Now you guys, we were having this conversation on the way in. You're like, we really need to put together my resume. You have to do resumes and everything. You're looking at building a resume in high school to be able to even get into college. So the pressure for college is crazy right now.
Yeah, and you guys got to college and you kind of didn't really know what you guys wanted to do, and then you would try out a few things.
Yes.
And now that doesn't slide. Sometimes it works depending on what college you go to. You can be you can change majors, but you can't do anything too drastically. You have to, going into college, if you're going to a high level school, then you need to know what you want to do and already know stuff about it.
Right.
So the pressures of learning what you're gonna need 5 years down the line is happening right now, because you need to already be doing stuff for that.
Do you think kids really know that, what they want to do? Because I changed majors a bunch of times for sure, and I still don't do anything.
They'll say they know what they want to do, but they don't. Some don't really. You know what I'm saying?
How can parents help with that? without pushing them in. Because I know you changed. So for those of you guys listening, Mia mentioned earlier her hobby. She's always wanted to be in aerospace engineering, and had narrowed down schools, looked at that, been going hard press on that, and then within this last year decided she wanted to do something different and go into film and TV because that's really where her passions are lying, and she doesn't like math. Well, she doesn't want to do it all day, every day. But you were afraid to have that conversation with me because you're like, oh, you're going to be mad.
Yeah, because it's going from a steady job that you'll get like a steady income that's kind of like chill and like low key to a job that you don't really know what's going to happen with it, because I like the writing portion of film and TV, like the behind the scenes, and you don't really know if that you're going to get like a good job with that. It's like very hard, and you're just going to it's trial and error again. And because I didn't want to have a conversation with you because I didn't think you would enjoy that.
I think it's cool. Like for me, I want my kids, and I don't know, for those of you parents, I'm curious, are the same. I think all parents want our kids to do something they love and enjoy. But yes, we want them to be able to pay bills too, so they're not living in our basement. But you're completely content living in a van down by the river. That's actually your goal.
Yeah, actually, I have a bunch of Pinterest boards named Van Life, van conversions. I know how to do all of that stuff. I'm very excited to do that. And I'm like content with the fact that I will not own a house. You know?
She did ask me the other day if you can buy just land to put like a 4-car garage on for her Volkswagen bus and her Sprinter. Yeah, her Sprinter, because she watched too much Breaking Bad. But
no, that's a Bounder. Sprinters are the little like Amazon trucks.
Oh yeah, okay.
The RVs are the Bounders. Those are from Breaking Bad.
I got to get this. I told you I'm trying to learn the hobbies. It's really tough. But all right, so it's okay, and Mitch just said that it's okay not to know.
Yeah.
So I think we need to give kids a break on if they don't know, because it was. But I go all in. Like she's like, I want to go into aerospace. I'm like, fantastic. So I was all in, trying to help and be supportive, and that's why I think you were scared, because I was so supportive of that. And I didn't care. It wasn't that I wanted you to go into aerospace. It was that I wanted to be supportive because that's what you wanted. So now that you switched, I'm as supportive of that.
Yeah, and that's important, because you should be supportive of whatever your kid wants to do or does or whatever. But the idea that you should know what you want to do like super early is very prominent in current day society, which is kind of annoying, and it gets tiring. But parents need to acknowledge that that's like a thing, and they can either help their kid do stuff if the kid is really invested in doing stuff, or if the kid doesn't really know, then the parent can be like, that's okay.
I think
figure it out later.
Totally okay. And Adunu said that too. It's starting at younger and younger ages, because Adunu, I know your girls are younger than mine, and it is. It's like we're expecting these kids to know by like, I don't know, age 2 what they want to be when they grow up, and that's
we're already talking. Kennedy and all of us bring up college for Kennedy already, and I'm not even in college, and she's 4 years younger than me.
Yep.
She's in 6th grade, and she's like, but like, if I wanted to start my own business, like, would I need to go to college and stuff? And she's in 6th grade, because
they're doing that, because she's taking one of the classes she's taking right now is
career awareness,
which I love the fact they're having that, because you guys didn't have that class.
No.
But they're talking about all different careers. They talked about teachers. She said they talked about doctors. They talked about
like first
firemen.
first responders.
And they also this week have been studying crime scene investigators, which Kennedy is all over right now.
She's like, so like when the blood is a little dry, it's been like 6-ish hours.
She was telling us how to tell how long a body had been there based on how dry the blood was.
Yeah.
This was our conversation in the car last night.
Okay. And she's like, yeah, so like the blood, you just got to watch it. And I'm like, okay, thank you for that.
I love the fact they're exposing them to them. But I think it's, and that's our opportunity as parents. If you don't have a class like that, because again, that was the only one of my kids who've had that type of class. And I feel like if you can kind of dabble in your interest, because, but then go all in, but be okay to change. Because I think what the cool thing with you is you were okay going, I don't want, and you still love space.
Oh yeah.
But I think the way you explained it to me is I don't want to go into that because I seriously don't want to sit and do math all day, every day.
Yes. I still like watch a bunch of launches and read things about things. And I still have a bunch of memorabilia that hanging on my wall, but like, I didn't want to do math all day. So I was like, okay, I'll step back from that a little bit.
And it's important to let our kids do that when if they're making an educated decision.
Yes.
All right.
So be able to back it up somewhat.
Right. And you're pretty good. You're going all in. She's read every book on it. I'm telling you, we still need Lauren Michaels because she will intern for free. I'll fly her up there. We'll get her in. Like that's who she likes. She wants to be the next Lauren Michaels.
I want to be up there. No one can be the next Lauren Michaels.
So Rob says, my oldest quit college after his junior year because he wanted to go full time into his art. I was all in, but gave him parameters. He needed to live with me and save money and get a waiting job to make some money, and he had a year to figure it out, and he gets his own place and supports himself. He actually thanked me for pushing him out of the house after a year. Best thing I could ever do for him.
I think that's great. And then Lisa just said she did the same thing with her kid. So Rob, I think that's a good point, is that's how we support them, is let them get their bearings and get their feet and figure it out.
Yes.
But not enable them.
Yes, exactly. You need to be there for them to figure out what they want to do. And then you can then take whatever parenting steps you need to ensure that they get that way.
So for any kids listening, or for the parents to relay to their kids, because you're pretty comfortable talking to me and giving me feedback, solicited or unsolicited. But like, I know a lot of people aren't like that, because Matt and I actually had this conversation after our episode it's cool, or after the first one you did, it's cool that you and I can just have conversations. But I know not all kids are able to talk to their parents or don't feel comfortable. So what can the parents do to make the kids feel like, yeah, it's okay to come to me?
I told you this in the car on the way here. And
but they didn't hear that.
I know. But we were talking about that because, like with Kennedy, jeez, Mom, you almost spilled that. Anyway, like with Kennedy, it's important to step in and step out and chill out when needed, because if you're so pressing on your kid, they're not going to want to talk to you at all, because they like, when they think of like talking to you, they just think of pure stress, and we don't want that. So you need to like chill out a little bit when you can, because that'll build the bond between you guys, and it'll help in the long run, because they'll think you're like calm enough to talk to.
So I read a quote one time, and actually I saved it on my computer for the longest time, because I had to use this as a reminder for your sister. It said an escalated adult can never de-escalate a child. Wow. So if a child's worked up about something, us getting worked up, they match that emotion or energy or intensity.
Because they don't know anything else, so they match the vibe that you're giving off.
So an escalated adult can never de-escalate a child.
Yes.
So we need to be chill and calm in order for our kids to come or feel comfortable going to us. Okay. I think that's fair.
And if they mess up, then you can be like, it's okay. Like, you'll have another shot or something. You can't be like, that was a dumb mistake or whatever.
So talk about protecting kids and everything like this, because we've got a couple minutes left. And I'm just curious about this. I'll put you on the spot, of course.
Oh boy.
What is, parents worry about, we talked about friends. They worry about who their friends or kids are hanging out with and all that. Talked about education. And I agree. You need to go into something you're passionate about, because in my line of work, with my coaching practice, I get to work with some great high achieving people, which is awesome. But I'll come across a number of people in the corporate world who are miserable in their jobs.
Yes.
Absolutely miserable. And you've said that too. Like, a lot of parents they're just bitter and just not having fun. And so I totally agree we should support whatever kids want to do. So that's all the good stuff. Now, on the flip side, we do worry as parents about the crazy stuff, because your sister in middle school said that there are kids in middle school who are doing like coke and things like that. So are drugs as prevalent as parents think they are, and what can a parent do to help keep their kids on the right path with that?
Well, when I was in middle school, when I was in 6th grade, like, that was not a big thing. And so it's definitely changed within the past couple of years, because the idea that someone in 6th grade is like doing coke and stuff is wild, because that was nothing that I could ever imagine have happened in my 6th grade. But so it is becoming more of an issue, and it's becoming more like how parents think it is. But you still have to look at the kid and think about, like, could they be drawn to that? And if so, then you can like step in and be like, we're not doing that crap. And then but the people that you don't really need to worry about, it's fine, Right. So you have to know your kid, which is another communication thing. Yep. You have to know your kid and know who they hang out with. then that'll tell you if you need to start worrying about stuff like that.
Okay. So what about, all right, so answer me this, riddle me this.
Oh, boy.
So we talked, I mean, that was cocaine, which is obviously a big thing.
Yes.
But now the trend that I'm hearing in the middle school and the high school is the whole vaping thing. Is that as popular as we think, or is just the media making it sound like it's a crazy thing?
That was big in 8th grade, and now it's
in 8th grade?
my 8th grade.
Okay.
And then I haven't seen a lot of it in high school. I've seen some of it, and it's still prominent now, but I think because it's advertised as a lot like better than like
cigarettes or
smoking
something like that. Yeah.
Which makes sense, but it still has like nicotine or whatever they say it does. But so you have to build up the kids I don't want to say brain, but like you have to build up some skills where they know to back off from that, because it's advertised as like
Cool.
a cool thing, like everybody's doing it, that kind of thing, you know. So you have to be
well, that's
there
what we hear
to
as parents, is like all the kids are doing it, but you're saying it's really not as big as people think it is.
I know like 2 people maybe who do that, and of course I don't hang out with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because I don't really want to. But like when I go to like football games or stuff, there's like 2 people that I see. There's definitely a lot more, but I'm just saying it's like prominent. But once you know your kid and you can realize that that's not something they'll do, you don't really have to worry about it.
Okay. So it's really just raising good kids.
Yes.
Teaching them right
It's the
from
formative
wrong.
years that you really need to worry about, because you can't really shape my mind anymore.
So what do you, as a kid, from a kid perspective, tell me what the formative years, because I'm curious. I know what's in my head, and I'll tell you after you answer. What is the formative years? Like for all the parents listening, what are the years where we need to be like, okay, we're shaping, we're molding?
Elementary school. And
Really?
then, yeah.
Okay.
And then once you get to middle school, you kind of start backing up a little bit. And in high school is like rough for a lot of people. And there's a lot of different factors that play into the high school life. So that high school is when you back up a lot, but also get ready to jump in if needed. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because there's a lot of more people who like drugs and stuff. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's happening in middle school now, so I don't really know.
Well, and Adunu just commented, and I am wearing her jewelry line right now, Messiah House. Thank you.
They're very, very pretty earrings.
Thank you. Well, she did just comment and say that it, it really, kids are exposed to more now with social
Yes.
media, and it's an easy introduction to such behavior, because I feel like, with social, like, what are your thoughts on social media and how much it influences kids? And when I say kids, I mean like teens and stuff like that. In middle school, how much does social media influence your behaviors?
Oh, it influences a lot, because like now TikTok's really big, so all the kids are like doing the trends and stuff on there. But I deleted TikTok, and then I go on Facebook the most, and Twitter and Instagram, and I post on Instagram and stuff just like because I want to, just to like show photos. But I don't really. But a lot of people are very invested in their feed or whatever, and want to make sure their pictures are perfect.
Okay. Well, and it's, it said good kids fall into peer pressure, unfortunately.
Yes.
So we've got to have, I think that, with the talks younger as a middle schooler, or excuse me, elementary, you said that's the formative years. And then we got to keep having, because if they're still falling in. And so, kind of as we wrap, this is a lot to get info, and I appreciate it. And this isn't anything surprising to me, because you and I have these conversations pretty regularly. But for parents, myself included, all the parents listening, how can we, once you get to your age or a little bit older, or even adult children, like even like, your sister's in her 20s, she's living in New York. I mean, it's how can parents check in to see how y'all are doing, or if you need anything, without it seeming like we're being extra? Like what is the chill way for a parent just to check in with a child?
Well, if you guys go from not talking at all to talking, then that's a red flag. But if you guys build up the bond, then you can be like, yo, what's up? You good? And then they'll be like, no, actually, I kind of need some money for some food. And then you'll be like, okay, cool. Well, why are you some money?
Well, it's all right. But even like the high schoolers, how do we check in with our high school? Because it does.
High schoolers don't want to be talked to. So don't even try.
Really?
They don't want to be talked to.
This is true, because I'll be like, are you okay? And you're like, I'm fine, Mom.
Yes, it gets annoying. So you have to have you have to know your kid to know when something's like not good, because they could be like, no, I'm fine. And you're like, Cindy, what are you talking about? You know?
Yep.
But you have to know your kid more and be able to step in if needed. But you have to chill out a lot because they don't want to talk to you.
Okay.
They
So
like-
leave kids alone
Yes.
until we think that and I hear this too, it's like if you see a change in their behavior,
Yeah.
that typically indicates something's going on.
Yes.
So you're saying that we see a change in behavior as a parent, we just kind of go, everything good?
Yes. Calmly address it.
Okay.
You can't be like, you can't have like an intervention and have someone sit down. You have like a talking stick. You can't be like, so
We don't have a
I
talking
noticed,
stick. I should buy a talking
I
stick.
noticed that you have been having some trouble lately. And they're going to be like, shut up, stop, no. And they're going to walk back to the room and lock the door. You have to be like, you good? And they'll be like, no. And then you'll be like, okay, cool, great.
So what if they say yes and you know they're not?
Then let them be and then address it later in a different fashion. You have
Sure.
to be kind of creative with your talking to.
So instead of saying you're good, say you're Gucci.
See
What are we
what's
saying?
up? You know?
Okay. So you're saying just don't press. Eventually they will open up. Just let them know you're there as an ear.
Yes.
Okay.
And that has to start early on because you have to build that bond.
Because like you're saying, if you've never talked to your child or never been anything,
Yeah.
then all of a sudden you're like, what's going on? They're like, what's wrong with mom?
Exactly.
Okay.
You can't throw it on them all at once.
Yep.
You
Yep.
have to build it up.
Yep. Mitch says Talking Stick would be a great name of your rock band
I have a
or your first book.
talking stick. That's pretty good.
And then Lisa Washington says it all starts at home and having those real conversations.
Yes.
I completely agree. And Lisa has grown children, as well. And from what I can tell, you guys have a great relationship. And you guys come to me. I mean, you guys, we have a lot of talking around our house.
And then Patty says, my daughter's like that. She's 20 now, but when she was in junior high and high school, I figured out that it takes her some time to process whatever it is that she's going through, and then let her come back when she was ready to talk.
Exactly.
It
takes a second.
And it's different for different kids, because I think the way
Yes.
you process is different than the way your sisters process. It's different than the way I
Yeah.
process. So know your children. I like it.
Yep.
Same thing with Lisa. She responded back saying, my relationship with my boys are very different based on their personality types. Starting early on, figuring out their communication styles. This has helped through all stages of life. No, one is 34 now and the other one is 20. Those styles have changed over time.
Yes.
Nice.
Like Kennedy explodes and lets you know everything that's happening right then.
Yes.
But then I
process.
process it and then determine what I need or something, like I internalize it.
And I will
process
say, I think it's because she does process things. If those of you guys have teens, she processes things in her room in the quiet, watching like old TV, and she doesn't want anybody around. So I can tell, she just needs to chill
Yes.
and allow that. Where Kennedy needs to hug and vent
Yes.
and sometimes scream. But that's okay. So meet kids, understand where they are and meet them where they are.
Yes.
Let them know you're there and then back up.
Yes.
And when they're comfortable, they will come to you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I like it. Well, Mia, you're hosting.
Well, Kristen, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Hope we can do this again.
I'm pretty sure she's asking to do this again because she's liking the experience. We're working on her reel, so this is good. This is good. So I love it, Sonia. I see your thing. Agree. Know your kid, because you've got a great kid. She was my oldest first roommate. in
Everybody just
college.
chill
Her
out.
daughter was awesome. All right, parents. Thank you guys so much for listening. Mia Andree, host of today's Renew podcast. Thank you for being here.
No problem.
And keep being a great kid. You guys, we will see you again next week for another episode of Renew. And until then, make it a great week.